Good job.
I think we can go ahead and get started. Is it okay, Jason? Okay. All right. Well, thank you all for coming today. Appreciate it. And I hope you guys are, like I said, having a great convention so far. And today we're doing an amazing panel with some amazing panelists. This is the intersection of art and play for game development. And you might be asking a bit of what does that necessarily pertain to or entail? And what we're hoping to do today in this panel is to kind of have that conversation with everyone on this panel about what that blend is of game development and being in the game industry and pursuing the creative side of it, while also being cognizant of the business side of things where games need to function and be in an industry. And also there's a second effort here is to just put a spotlight on these amazing talented folks that we have on the stage, and many like them. This is an industry that I very much enjoy and I'm a fan of, and I think it doesn't get the attention it deserves and the folks that work behind it. So we're hoping to hit on both of those. What do you guys think? Well, with that, I want to first start introducing everyone and kind of setting us with that. My name is Kurosh Jazavi. I'll be your moderator today. I run a video production that I do, the KJP show, where we highlight and celebrate and elevate indie games and game developers of all kinds. And that's been my passion and something that I like to bring to the table for this. So we'll go down the line. Joseph, if you wouldn't mind starting this off by who you are and everything.
Yeah, thank you, Kurosh. My name is Joseph Burgos. I work at Riot Games for Valorant. I'm a 3D asset artist.
Hi, my name is Megan Friedenberg. I'm a graphics programmer here at Sony at San Diego Studio, so I work on MLB The Show.
Hello, I am Joel Benjamin. I am a senior character artist on MLB The Show at Sony San Diego.
Hi, I'm Brandii Grace. I'm a 20-year industry veteran who's gone insane and decided to start my own indie studio solo. Our tagline is Dare to Play Differently.
Nice.
Hello everybody, my name is Steve. I'm a video game recruiter at Jogo Studios currently. Prior to that, I worked at Riot Games and then also Sony PlayStation.
Hi, my name is Vlad Micu. I'm a jack of all trades, master of fun, I guess, mostly on the business development side. For the last couple of years, I've worked in multiple studios, PC, console, VR, mobile, in 12 different countries. So yeah, I'm kind of like the overall guy. Great to be here.
Rock stars, as I was mentioning earlier, am I right? So what I kind of want to go over is, now that we've kind of introduced everyone, I'd like to go a little bit more in just setting a ground expectation or foundation of that. So I'd like to start this time with Vlad, if you could, and we can work our way back, of like, you described who you are and what your role is, but can you give a bit of a description of what that entails? Like, what is the role in as brief a way as you can, or however you can describe it to the general audience here?
Why did you start with me, man? So I bluffed my way into the industry as a journalist and doing events. And so I've done every single thing in games that you can imagine doing as a job, including HR, first a little bit surface level, except for programming and art, right? So I've tasted a little bit of everything. Nothing has given me that screw you money yet, but that's why I'm the embodiment of a generalist, I would say, because I've been in all those different trenches. I wouldn't say I've been in AAA as heavily as some of my fellow panelists. I would say the longest I've spent on one game was 3 years, and that was a pretty hefty indie game with its own like physics engine and stuff, really new stuff. Sadly, no success. But
You're successful.
You're successful, you're here.
it's a bit hard for me to answer that in a brief answer.
And I know, Steve, glad you guys are sharing the mic. Feel free to get comfy and cozy. I know you two know each other,
So for myself, I started in the industry about 17 years ago. I got started as a video game tester at PlayStation. And then from there, I transitioned into more of the business development as a production manager. And then that transitioned to me where I am now as a video game recruiter, because I had the experience of working in games and I loved it so much. But something I found to enjoy even more is helping people in their video game career journeys. So now I can take my experience as a developer and as a recruiter and give some insights into anyone out there that's looking to transition their love for video games and find a way to make money doing it. So that's why I became a recruiter and now mentor.
Okay. I have been a designer, a programmer, a department chair, a instructor. I started and sold a company. I've worked on AAA games for Activision, Disney, Warner Brothers, Microsoft. I've done a lot of things. I've spent a lot of time on the academic side, making sure that the next generation is well prepared to step in. And because I've been teaching everything, I've also been doing everything. So it's been not as hard to transition for me as for many others, where I'm just like, yes, now I'm the programmer and the artist and the designer and the writer and the marketer and the business person. And that's what I'm doing now, is a little bit of everything. And my project's about to ship, so I'm pretty much done. But.
Well, I just walked in. They said, hey, there's a mic. I was just like, sure. No, seriously, I've been in entertainment for the last 29 years. I've worked in video games for 24 of those 29 years, and I have worked for Sony for this year, anniversary, a month ago, 20 years. Yeah, it was very long, it's very stressful, but it has probably the most fun job I've ever been at PlayStation. I've never had, and shockingly, two of my workmates is in there. It's like, they are what make it fun for me. That not just you two, but all of us. It's my team, the team I work with. Honestly, how to describe my job is I make a lot of pretty stuff. And I leave it up to her to make it work in the game. That's kind of what I do. Not just they also do. But believe it or not, I started off in entertainment. I used to work in comic books. I used to work for Image Comics straight out of high school. I went for Image Comics when they got bought up by Warner Brothers. Worked for Warner Brothers. And then I left there. First video game job was Midway. Started working on a bunch of games that never came out, except 2 of them came out. I worked on like 8 titles. Only 2 out of those 8 actually shipped. Then I moved down the line, worked at like 3 other video game companies, and then Sony picked me up. Best thing I could ever tell anybody is be nice to them. No, like, be cool. Whatever. Honestly, almost every job I've ever had was me being cool. Plus, I also am very cool. So. I'm joking. I can't embarrass myself.
So I actually started off in film. I know we're talking about games, but I was on Disney's real-time team in DMED, Disney Media, and we were inside Unreal Engine 5. We were doing a Christmas special for the show, Big City Greens. We know that? Nice, this is a nod, cool. Yeah, so the entire 26-minute episode was all filmed in editor, like using sequencer, and I was one of the engineers on the production, so I was building tools on top of UE5 code for cinematic directors to use. So it was super games related, where I was taking all my games knowledge I had learned, but was simply making an extended cutscene, is how it was described to me in the interview, and it was a ton of fun, and I ended up jumping ship over to Insomniac Games, and that was my first huge games role. I did technical art over there, and I was working on Spider-Man 2. And now I'm a graphics programmer on the show at San Diego Studio. So at San Diego Studio, graphics programmers, you either work with characters or you work with environment, and that's kind of like the two dividing factor. So I work with characters. So I build tools for Joel. That is what I do. More particularly, I build tools for hair, for cloth, for equipment, and then I'm also still programming and adding features to our engine as well in order to support said tools.
She does a good job at it. So far.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Yeah.
So far.
I love how things work, but at the same time, I love how creative art is. And I've tried to do art, and I've taken Maya classes, and I'll admit I'm a better programmer. You know, so I will appreciate your work from a distance. But I do know what you're doing and build animation style tools, etc.
Cool. As for myself, I humbly consider myself a junior with all these awesome people. I recently graduated, for context of my background, for computer science, and I have a background of military reserve. However, I got my internship at Riot for art, 3D weapon art. And for 3D weapon art at Riot for Valorant, it consists of making weapon skins. So in Valorant, that's our moneymaker, right? We make a lot of skins. And working as an internal artist, internal 3D artist for Valorant involves not only bringing the weapons to life, but making lots of artistic decisions, making a lot of documentation for outsource, as well as working with shaders.
Well, so something I'm feeling like I'm learning here, and I'm sure many of you as well, is that there's many different ways in which you're contributing and being a part of the gaming industry, whether it be in the artist level, at the higher level, at the various other aspects and departments that go into it. And what I'd like to kind of take this into is the challenges you face. So if you could each maybe bring something about what are the challenges and the roles that you face that you think is the biggest things that you draw to or you face on a frequent basis. I'd love to hear some of that.
I can start for challenges if y'all don't mind. Being a 3D artist, a lot of times when you think about it, it's like my job would be to execute off of concept. At Riot, it is not like that. That is your very first step. Your job is to make it look good, and that involves working with concept, working with animation, working with VFX, and working with audio to bring that weapon to life. And you're never really just, where the challenges begin is you're never really just handing off your plate. It's like, where can we find the middle ground between all these roles? And when I say all these roles, it means we're always having syncs, we're always having meetings, trying to make everything work together. And that is just for the artistic piece. We also have a lot of competitive integrity, which makes sure we're not making stuff that's pay to lose or pay to win, that many people may complain about. But it's a really fun challenge. Always keeping your head up, because challenges are what makes skins better, is what we think. So that's one main challenge that we face on Valorant.
So as a graphics programmer, I'm pretty much the person sitting between people like Joel, who are doing amazingly creative things and coming up with awesome art designs, but then it's me trying to figure out how to apply my engineering knowledge and what I know, then being able to make it work in engine. That's kind of magical, right? But how I would also describe that is, essentially a lot of it is a word problem. You know, and it's like forever people growing up in math were like, oh my God, the word problem. I'm here to tell you, it's my entire job. You know, but the word problem, I need to figure out the word problem by talking to Joel. And I hear from Joel's perspective and other artists. And with my couple animation and art classes I took, I'm like, okay, so I do know the type of feature maybe he wants, right? But then I need to critically think and stop and apply my graphics knowledge, my engineering, and then try to figure out how it snaps into our code base like a precise Lego brick, not something that is going to bring down the Jenga tower, but he really needs to be able to clip in and play so I can keep building off it later. So I would say my greatest challenge is sometimes that critical thinking step, it's really easy to overthink things, but some things should be overthought. I'm going to be honest, it's hard sometimes, but yeah.
crazy shit. It's like I can honestly say my biggest challenge is me, not because of her, because of me. Because for me being an artist, I believe some of you guys here are artists who at least I know two. So, but when you're an artist, you have a tendency of looking at the things you do, and once it's done, you look at it and go like, I could have done better. And it's a curse. It's a curse. It hurts. Because there are so many times where I've done things, it's shipped, it's been on the shelves, everybody's looking at it going like, this is gorgeous. And then you're looking at it like, that finger sucks. And you are looking at that finger. No matter how much you look at it, you're just looking at that finger. You're just like, that sucks. And I become my own speed bump, because next time I try to do something, I end up concentrating on that finger. Just that one finger, because I want that finger to look better than the last thing I did. And you tend to go into that hump where sooner or later, the dreaded deadline will hit. And then you're just like, you have to hit this deadline. So I can honestly say I'm probably my biggest problem, because I'm always sitting there going like, this is good, it's finally done, wait. This is not done. And then I'll work on it a little more and then push it off like, it's done. Wait. And I'll go in and then I'll push it away, and then one of them will take it and be like, oh, it's done. I was like, no, it's not done. And now I'm going to fiddle with it even more, causing myself a lot more work for no reason, because it looks good. I just have it in my head that, I could have done better. And I was it last 29 years in entertainment, I've done it. Doesn't matter when I was a rookie, when I you can call myself a pro, but I'm better than a rookie. And that probably is my biggest.
So I think most of my focus is in design. And as a designer, regardless of whether you're working on a team of 1 or a team of 1,000, at some point your job is to work on broken tools, running on broken systems, supported by broken tech. And your job is to make something that is somehow a combination of art and a technical manual for people you've never met. So, this is your job. Yeah, we've all done this. The problem is the work itself, but it's also fun. It's a challenge, but it's a challenge I like dealing with. And a lot of things is, I want to go here, but I can't just go here. I've got to go like this to come up around and come back and maybe hit it. Now I'm over here. Okay, never mind. So you're constantly problem solving in everything you do. And it's not just the tech. You also have management issues and marketing issues. And a lot of our industry is, despite the fact that we are a young industry compared to every other medium, there's a lot of like old ways of thinking for people who are stuck in the way things were in the 70s, 80s, or 90s. And it's hard to get them to say things that you would think are really straightforward, like, yes, women play games. Yes, people of color play games.
Yeah.
They're not all rich white boys in the basement somewhere who don't have any friends. It's Interestingly enough, people of color, the black community is actually the largest racial community in the U.S. that plays games.
Lies.
ESA's fault. So yeah, it's about trying to constantly build on these things and find a way to build to the future of the audience you don't have yet and want, and the audience that you have now, and the audience that the executives think you have or think you want.
So for me, I would say one of the biggest challenges that I have is understanding that I'm not always the final shot caller when it comes to making decisions. And when it comes to making video games, I'm going to go to an example of when I was a tester. Now, as a tester, it was my job to be completely critical of everything. And I would nitpick the artwork, the sound, the design, and I would think, how are they allowing this game to release with these problems going on? But when I worked my way into the production standpoint, and I saw that the result of fixing certain bugs could literally cost hundreds of thousands of dollars that a company didn't have, then it gave me a little more appreciation to say, oh my goodness, right? All of the hard work that all of these developers are putting into it, my 2 cents of information, even though I'm so passionate about it, would I be willing to risk my money, to risk my family, and not only that, but the families of all of the other developers in order to fix this one thing? And that gave me so much more humility and appreciation for what goes on in the industry. So before, when I was super critical, when something didn't come out the way that I wanted it to be, now I'm a little more accepting because I understand that the stakes, a lot of them, I don't even have visibility into. So thank you all developers for making the sacrifices and putting your hard work and blood and tears into it. So those are the challenges that I have to face.
To add to that, I've tasted a little bit of every single pill that was just described to you in the different roles. You know, that kind of idea that your decisions will not look the way they do in your head once you're further down the process and other people have looked at it too. You know, the concept of one auteur, you know, Kojima, for example, deciding on everything is not the case every time in major projects, right? Sometimes it's designed by committee, and all you can hope for is that everyone does their best in their discipline. It's a multidisciplinary effort. I think, you know, if this would be a bingo game, multidisciplinary is one of the terms that instantly pops into my head in this conversation, right? That critical thinking is so important, right? And to have that conversation, making informed decisions, looking at the market, because I'm that biz dev guy, right? I need to see what everyone else is doing. And, you know, time is such an important resource that we never take into account, which Joel also raised. You know, is it a bug or is it actually a feature? Like just to Joel's point, art is never finished. And I've worked on every type of possible game except sports games. And I can tell you, whether it's live operated or it's printed on a CD, every single project I've worked on, over 35 and all these different platforms, it always felt like, if you've seen Wallace and Gromit, there's that scene where like Robin is chasing a sheep and he's sitting on a train, the toy train, he's laying out the tracks while he's driving the train. That I've experienced in every single game, regardless of platform, budget, team size. Even a game jam game that I did in 48 hours effectively had that element in common. So yeah, there's always consequences to all these processes. Having that overview, being able for myself to be able to talk a little bit of the lingo of every discipline, that's what's effectively helped me like get an appreciation that Steve also felt the same way.
Thank you. I think let's take it a step further now with the challenges and going in as much as we can. Vlad, Brandii, I'm going to pick on you in a second, but first I'd like to pick on this half of the table. With publishers and with existing IP, and you see legacy, you see a lot of properties with expectations. How do you navigate the balance of those expectations from the publishers and from players with your own creativity and what you bring to the table with it?
Okay, first, second. So when working on skins in Valorant, there is, in my personal experience for our team, there is this great necessity for everyone on the team to push it further than originally intended. So when we consider our marketing for Valorant, skins have tiers have prices, and those are our limits. Sometimes we see a skin and we're like, it'd be so awesome if we had more VFX. It'd be so awesome if we just added a little bit more. But with the state of our business, because the industry, I consider it is also a business, you have to follow those rules. So it's this constant battle of being an artist and also meeting business needs and knowing where to push your limits. Sometimes you can surprise your mentors or your managers by adding in a little fluff here, a little fluff there, and sometimes they'll slap you on the hand, and other times they're like, he's cooking, you know? Like, let's go along with this. So in the industry, it's always this battle of like artists and kind of like the business model, but in the end, artists always try to push for more, and I think that's like my solution as I'm navigating.
Speaking of artists pushing for more, and I know you're always living your best life and doing your best work, Sometimes from the engineering perspective, we are doing the absolute best we can. And with the business requirement, the time is not infinite. And while I would expect in college that we would get on a Discord call in the morning and start debugging shaders, we are not going to do that at work. So, from the engineering perspective, it's much more of we need to do the best we can. And okay, I know the artists want to make it look a certain way, but at the end of the day, can we figure out all the challenges? You know, there's a reason why sometimes you're going to have multiple engineers just stuck on the same problem, right? To have so many creative minds focused on we need better here, you know, or something like that, right? And it's at the end of the day, it's trying to figure out what is feasible with the time and the power, but it's also being okay with the fact that as much as you want to throw 60 or 70 hours figuring out the thing, you can't necessarily do that. No. But you did your best.
For me, I look at it like anybody you're working with that is not the company that you work for, like they work with their class. I can throw out, for instance, when I was at Midway, worked on a Justice League video game. And while we were on the Justice League video game, there's core Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, can't touch. Everybody knows what they look like, so you have to make them look the way they look. There were side characters. They told us, hey, flex on these, try to make them look cool. But there's limitations. You can't make them look cooler than Superman, Batman. Because you try to make it look better than Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, make you look good, but to DC, you're just not that guy. You are, they will get mad at you because they're messing with their core preference. So when you're working with a specific company that has a specific product that needs to look like that specific product, you do what they say and try to represent your company the best you can by making the product the way the client wants it. Now, when it comes to when you get freedom to do anything, which honestly, like right now, I don't get a lot of freedom to flex, but I get enough freedom to flex to when I work on things that makes me go like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to all my time is going to be this, and then you put all your effort into this to have somebody basically say that looks way cool, but change this, change that, change this, change that. So a lot of times you just can't have, you can't put in so much heart into something. Let me rephrase it, not heart. Like you can't hold too much into a lot of things you do when somebody else is going to be looking at your stuff and basically saying, this is not what the audience wants, it's not what the critics want, it's not what the company wants. You have to actually be able to hold that ego back and say, okay, it looked good. I understand those people are idiots. I'm just saying, it's like, I understand, like, this is not, they don't see it the same way I do, so I just gotta hold the ego back and just rein it in, give them what they want, and then move on to the next thing. It took me a long while to learn, like, not everything I see is cool. There's a lot of things I want to be cool, but not everything I see is cool. It took me a while to learn. And sometimes it takes somebody out like going like, that was great, I really like what you did, good job. But do it this way. Every once in a while you get that.
I think the three of you are bringing up a good point of like, there's a constant battle of like ownership of the creative work that you're bringing to the table, but you're bringing it to the larger effort of the team or the goals of the larger entities that may be. And that sounds like just a day-to-day battling, like balancing act, I should say, in a lot of ways. So that's interesting, and I want to elaborate on that further from a different perspective. Steve, don't worry, I'm not leaving you out. I'm going to get to you next. But I'd like to hear from Brandii and Vlad for a second from kind of that independent perspective. you are coming at it from a companies where you're the owners, or you have more control in some ways, and maybe in a lot of ways you have a lot more creative freedom. But I'm wondering from that perspective, is there more pressure or less pressure to find success and to make things viable?
Yes. All of that. So here's the thing. If I were working for pretty much any company, there's no way I'd be allowed to do the game I'm doing now. The current project I'm working on, 3 Days, is a game about abortion bans and the maternal health care crisis in the US. I'm not going to get to do that in any other company. So there is an enormous amount of creative freedom. The problem, however, is that when you're doing from the scrappy indie side, of course there's the lack of funds, there's the lack of assistance and help in that sense. But there's also this thing of you have to really understand your market. That has to be first. Who is your target audience? Who is your target market? Because you could make it an adorable game for preschoolers, or you could make the most violent, bloody, gory game in history. Those might both be viable niches. They can't go together in the same game. So you have to pick both for each individual game and all the features in the game, but also kind of for the brand. Because if I'm doing a game about abortion and then suddenly I'm doing a game about Elmo, that's not going to work. Also, I don't have that much time to like clone myself yet. So I have to kind of pick. I have 50,000 game ideas I want to make, but I have to say, okay, I'm doing this one first for these reasons, and then this one, and then this one, and you have to create the pipeline and have the discipline to stick to it, which is hard. So there are these different challenges, and success and failure is all mine. So I'll reap the rewards and reap the failures at the same rate. So there's also kind of the it's nice, the nice dream of being the one that is meritocratic. So whether I succeed or fail is, in theory, on me. Issues of privilege and luck aside.
Yeah, you have nobody else to rely
Don't
on
blame
yourself. So it's completely your responsibility. It's like whether you have a job or whether you're self-employed. I've been self-employed my entire career, which is getting to be like 23 years in the industry by September this year. And I every single time I failed, I had to crawl back up by myself. Fortunately, with the support network of peers and friends in the process. But everything comes down to being creative through constraints, right? People that were programming back on the early computers or the Atari, they had to figure out how to make more than one character move around on the screen. But they figured it out, and then we got Space Invaders, right? So for me, I think the most valuable experience that I've gathered in all of these years of development was when I was working with mobile games and with games that had live operations. Because the moment those games go live, everything can go wrong, and the chance of you getting a second win are very slim. We've all seen examples in the industry that come by. Some of you might have played them, might have gotten back to them a year or two later. So, hey, now the game actually works, right? So I look at games like Baldur's Gate, which is sadly more of an exception than a rule, of an IP being treated well and the developer having that liberty to a degree to do cool stuff through those constraints. Cyberpunk is another example. I work closely with a lot of Polish game developers, but even Cyberpunk had a little bit of a mishap, and I've had friends who personally were affected by that. So it's great that CD Projekt had a second win, but there were people personally affected by how that game came out and was forced to come out in the first place. And fortunately, some of them are now independent and running their own game studios. But the players start owning your game. And I remember when World of Warcraft first came out, and that's when the game developer told me when I was still a student, the moment your game comes out, just do a simple math equation. It's like you got developers spending time on it, like let's say a 50-person team for 3 years. The amount of hours, person hours that they spend on that game are dwarfed within the first few minutes that the game goes live by the players. And then the players own your game. And your players are your currency. If you make a game that you hope to update and release, it's like the moment the game launches, that's when my work starts to keep the game alive. And that's how it's been for me most of my career.
Is there anyone out here who actually is now or wants to be indie?
Yeah.
I kind of thought so. So one thing to keep in mind is that the development is like a third or less of the cost of everything. So that's just the first part. Your marketing, your user acquisition, all of that is where your costs can overrun, especially if you're doing a networked game. Multiplayer.
I can be very simple about it. Back in 2014, I enjoyed making a mobile game. I was working on a first-person shooter, making weapons that had very low polygon count, so it could actually run on the Samsung Galaxy S3. Back then, we had a 3D multiplayer shooter in mobile before anything else. 300,000 daily active users. We didn't earn a lot because we had really crappy monetization, but boy, was that a lot of responsibility.
And so what I'm hearing from this panel is that at the levels of the technical side and on the broader organizational side, the challenges are different, but all towards the same larger goals of pursuing these games, pursuing these challenges, and you have to figure out how to figure those puzzles. Steve, I'd like to start with you. I kind of want to go into how you start looking at and examining an environment of which you can work with and work in where it fosters that creativity, and you build that kind of work environment of you being in the recruiting space. I'd imagine that's like at the forefront of what you're kind of working with. Can you to talk about that? And also, I'd love to hear from the rest of the panel about how much that plays into it. You know, Joel, you mentioned a bit of that as well. Why your team, you had a few of your friends here.
So making an awesome environment to work in, if I had to bring it down to a couple of different variables, one would be to be technically good at what you do. Because if we have a game where the graphic style is ultra realistic, you have to have people that actually can do that. Now, I don't care how passionate you are about the game, if you can't bring your artwork up to that fidelity, it's not going to be a good scenario, because you're going to be requested to do things that you're not capable of, and that's a recipe for frustration across the entire team. So in order to remedy that, find out what your style is and what you can do, and make sure that as a recruiter that I bring those right people onto the team that have the technical capabilities. And then maybe even more important than your technical capabilities, Joel alluded to this before, is be a cool person to work with. Especially in video games, you realize you're spending 40 plus hours a week with these people side by side, and you have to be able to communicate with them effectively and work towards a common goal, even though there will be disagreements. It's not if, it's when those disagreements happen.
And how many times and how loudly.
Exactly, and I'm sure all of you have at least been in school where you worked on a school project and you're the one who did all of the work and everybody else kind of just like, hey, go ahead and do it. That's not going to fly in a professional environment. So making sure that you have the technical ability to do what you need to do for the sake of the company and for the sake of the team, and then also be a cool person to work with, because I've seen so many people where they may not be technically good at what they do, but because they know how to work in the team and provide service, they can level up their skills when they're in the environment. So that's where the soft skills can kind of compensate if your technical skills aren't necessarily at the fidelity, but just right at that edge point.
Yeah, I agree with it. If I had to add anything onto what you just said, have a healthy liver, because you'll be drinking. It's a fun thing that, especially if you're cool with the people you work with. Like, I try to hang out with them as much as possible. Like, that right there, that guy right there in the black plaid shirt, that's my work right there. Like we hang out a lot. We just try to have as much fun as possible. Try to be fun. Like, honestly, it's like when you're not at work, easiest thing I can tell you right now is like working in video games, or even being an artist. When you're not working, you still think of work. The best thing to do is, if you're gonna think of work, at least A, drink. B, be around cool people that drink. No, I'm joking. Be around cool people, just be around people and fun. So when you actually do think about work, you say, that guy does this, that guy does this. I can feed off of him, What are they telling me? to how to do things. And honestly, they've been running the products. So going to these people are people, like, they will be they're your life vest. Like, there's so many times you try this. I don't know. I had a problem like a week ago, and I was like, try this out. I did it so many damn times.
Yes,
It's like,
oh, sorry.
it is, no, it's just like, be cool with everybody. Have fun as much as you can.
I was gonna say, that's the problem with being a solo dev. My coworker is such a jerk. Jerk. I'm doing it all the time.
So I think we have time for one last question, and I want to make sure I give each of you an opportunity to spend some time with this one. For this last question, for each of you, and we'll start here with Joseph, is what is the one thing you wish more people knew about the gaming industry and the work you do?
One thing, and I kind of touched upon this earlier, that I wish more people kind of knew about is that I feel it's always a good way to think about the game dev industry is also a business. So when you think about that, you gotta have a lot of boundaries for yourself as a person. As we know, this past year, there's been a lot of layoffs. You gotta think about how they're running a business. So when you're at a certain part of your career, look at yourself, your health, kind of where you are. Am I happy? Is my liver okay? But when you're so passionate about being an artist and working on a game you love, it's easy to get caught in just like, I'm doing what I love, right? But also you gotta think of like that 5-year goal, your 5-year plan, you gotta think about your life. So at the end of the day, you're working for a business, you gotta care for yourself too.
So I'll start off a little sad and then be bright. So graphics across is less than 5% women.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people don't realize that the difference is that stark. And less than 50% of women will ever be promoted to senior engineer. But I'm here to tell you that if you're going into work and you get to talk about Spider-Man all day, it is just the best job ever. I meant to tell a story earlier where on Spider-Man 2, less than 1 year from when it was going to ship, the artist decided that they really wanted capes to be in the game. And I'm here to tell you that both the animation tools and the engine itself did not support capes because, as everyone knows, no capes. But artists and business said yes, capes. So if you're pooling a bunch of engineering people together, and maybe yes, you are doing the hard math problems, right? But you're going to work arguing about capes. And you get to work on things like Spider-Man all day. Genuinely, the job is so fun. And yes, it will be hard. Yes, it will be very hard, and there's a lot of obstacles, but the fact that I get to drive home from work smiling, and I drive into work smiling, knowing that I get to solve such fun problems, you know? Just, it doesn't always feel like work to me, because I'm genuinely having a good time, and I wish more women knew that, yes, it will be hard, but it is so rewarding, and the amount of creativity you get to interact with.
5% means it went up a lot. Seriously, it was like 1% when I started.
For me, I was told this once a long time ago, if you have fun doing what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. And I almost guarantee you guys have heard this before. I'm on some cliche, but that statement is so true. I would do my job for free. Don't tell.
Let's just see.
But I would definitely do my job for free. It's like if I could literally not have to worry about anything this stuff and clothes and kid, I would literally do my job for free. It is a fun job. It's like honestly, like my whole career has literally been doing cool stuff, working with fun people. I kind of feel I'm just lucky, so I feel spoiled. because I do cool stuff with people, and it is, but this is something I would do for free. So it's like, honestly, just try to have fun doing what you do. It's gonna be stressful, it's gonna be hard. You're gonna look at it one day and you're like, that finger sucks. And I guarantee you, it's like, just understand, it's not that crazy. Like it's just how life works. Just try to have fun. Do whatever you gotta do to just see the brighter side. It's not that hard. You just have to kind of do it. And I know I'm so just, I don't even take that advice. I'm saying it. It's like it is. Every once in a while, I'm just like, damn. But it's one of those things where I'm like, have fun. I don't want to try.
I forgot the question.
What is one thing you wish more people knew about the industry and the work you do?
I wish more people knew that there are more people out there that can do it. And I will say I'm very happy that as we have progressed, we've gotten to the point now where there are tools available that more people can learn and more people can make games. And I wish more people in the industry knew that there are more games out there than first-person shooters and car racers. And like, there are so many things that we haven't even touched on. You know, we understand that film can be versatile enough to have a Borat movie and Schindler's List. But we don't seem to think we have that kind of versatility in games. And I think that as our tools are getting more democratized and as more people are learning about the artistry of game design and game production and game work, that we are going to start seeing more of these interesting areas that we haven't seen explored before. And I mean, I'm looking forward to that. And you know, maybe I'll prove with my game that there's areas that we haven't explored that are open for new game ideas. And if anybody's interested, I have stickers. So feel free to come up afterwards.
One thing that I wish everybody knew that wants to work in video games is a philosophy that I've used to build my entire career. And that philosophy is, you will get everything you want in life if you help enough people get what they want. When I first started in the industry, I was very selfish in my motivations, and I was all about me. How can I get the best bug count? How can I do stuff that's going to make me happy? But when I started doing things like personal development, and I realized how interconnected we all are, when I realized that, oh, I'm not just here to serve myself, I'm here to serve people, I'm here to serve the rest of the team, I'm here to serve the game players that are going to be the end result of this game. Once I realized that, that's when my career exploded. So every time I have an interaction with somebody, I have in the back of my head, how can I be of service to this person and their goals and what they need to do? And when I focus on that, so many opportunities can come my way. And even though I'm not brilliantly talented in art, design, or programming, or business, just me having that human-to-human mindset of the assistance that I provide doesn't have anything to do with me and my technical abilities. Sometimes it's just making a referral. Oh, this company's looking for a programmer. What do you know? I know a programmer. Let me make the introduction. And by doing things like that, so many opportunities open up. And that's why just having that heart of service, every single one of you can do it. It's just a matter of, are you putting yourself in a position to meet enough people so you can help provide that service? So if there's any one thing, if you want to work in video games, is connect with people in the video game industry, come from a heart of service, meet people, and then provide that service.
You're a genius of people.
I do it.
Yeah, there's so many things that come to mind, and I'm so glad that the other panelists crossed off so many of them already. I would say the best way for me to answer that is really kind of a matter of risk management. Like, do what you are able to do the same way as we're all advised to go gambling and go buy crypto. Just like set aside the time to spend making yourself better at whatever skill you have and try out whatever kind of art you are pursuing, whether it's interactive like us or comics or whatnot, that you feel you can afford, and prepare for failure. Because a lot of the things that we discussed and the kind of decisions that we want to have in our games, oh man, I wish I could do that better, I wish I could do that different, that usually is allowed to go into a sequel. But what if the sequel fails? What's your plan B? What's the flexibility that you have there? I wish more people would have prepared me for failure. And that's something that I've had to learn the hard way. So I've become an expert in failure, effectively. And that kind of also ties in with Steve, is if I can save a few hours, weeks, months of hardship, trauma, pain, and financial loss with a few minutes of my time, I've always been a free agent in a similar fashion. If you don't have to reinvent the wheel because someone else did it, and trust me, people have. Because maybe our processing power has increased, maybe our consoles are sleeker, but God, man, the same things keep happening over and over in this industry. And all those resources are out there, all those videos, all those books, so they're so freely accessible. So just try and avoid reinventing the wheel if you can. There's still so much creativity you can find through those constraints. That's it.
Let's hear it for our panelists, everyone. Our volunteers and staff that are working at Comic-Con, let's hear it for them as well. They've been and thank you all for coming today. I appreciate it, for making it to our panel, The Intersection of Art and Play for Game Developers. We'll be outside if you want to chat a little bit more, but also there is a panel coming up with a dear friend of mine, Alex, and the adaptation to Advantage, how women in fandom work together. So please check that out if that is of interest to you as well. And have a great rest of your Comic-Con, everyone. Thank you.